Hello everybody, Maven here, and I've waited so long to finally have the perfect Threadling build, and thanks to Season of the Wish giving us the perfect weapons for this build, it is now finally complete. On this YouTube channel, I do a lot of builds, and I don't like to put out half-baked content. If a build's not completed, I will not make a video on it. So there's a reason why Strand's been out for almost a year now, and I have not made a Threadling themed build, because I knew that it was not complete. You know, we had dozens of Hatchling weapons come out, but they weren't the theoretical perfect Hatchling weapons. But now we have the perfect Hatchling weapons. So with that being said, we are revisiting the Verity's Brow Strand Warlock build. One of the funnest builds ever, by the way. And shout outs to Error for the original concept of this build. I'll link his video down below in the description. Gotta give credit where credit is due. Several months later, the build is now perfected, so let's talk about it. Don't forget to drop a like because it helps out a ton, and I hope you enjoy. So for a Threadling based build, obviously we want to max out our discipline because our grenades matter the most. You got your Threadling grenades, or in this case the grapple, because we're pairing it along with the Mind Spun invocation, so our grapple melee spawns 3 Threadlings, which just makes it strictly better than the Threadling grenade. So that brings us to the Verity's Brow. This is what brings the build all together. Strand Weapon Final Blows are going to grant us stacks of death throws. Stacks up to 5 times, each stack lasting 11 seconds, and grants plus 50% grenade recharge rate and plus 20% grenade damage. At maximum stacks, our grenade recharge rate is nearly quadrupled and our grenades deal double damage. And yes, that counts our grapple melee as well. So just to show a comparison of how strong that is, here's a grapple melee with 5 stacks of death throws versus Carl with the 3 Threadlings from Mind Spun invocation buffed by the Thread of Evolution that increases Threadling damage by 50%, and we chunk him for half his health. And here's a hothead rocket with impact casing and adept big ones, and we hit him for 1/3 of his health. So our grapple is doing about the damage of 1.5 rockets, and with this build we can get our grapple back in just seconds. So yeah, safe to say we really want to use Strand Weapons to farm up those stacks of death throws. Now what perks do we want to look out for? Well, definitely Demolitionist and Hatchling. We want Demolitionist to get our grapple charge back as quick as possible, while also stacking that on top of death throws. It gets out of control. And we want Hatchling to build into our Threadling theme. So taking a look at all the options that we had pre-season 23, there was nothing that really stood out. Pressurized Precision was one of the best Hatchling weapons because you can pair that along with Discord, which is a nasty combination. But if we're talking about all the weapons that can get Demolitionist and Hatchling together at the same time in separate columns, the only one that was really practical was the Rufus's Fury, which is still a very solid option to use in less difficult content right now. But if we really wanted the Verity's Brow to pop off hard and we had to choose any weapon type to pair with it, it would 100% be a machine gun. But the only option we had before was Circular Logic, which is the Muna machine gun. This can get Demolitionist and Hatchling, but you see the problem here. They are in the same column, so you can only have one at a time. But alas, Season 23 saves the day with the brand new Marcato-45. This weapon can get Demolitionist and Hatchling together at the same time, so we can build into our nades and Threadlings at the same time. Plus, it's the optimal 450 RPM archetype. It's got an extremely incredible inventory size stat of 60, which is greater than that of the Unwavering Duty and the raid machine guns such as Commemoration and Corrective Measure. And with this build, we are using double reserve mods on our chest that allows us to hold up to 453 ammo, and you combine that with the fact that we're using heavy ammo finder. We got double surge mods on our boots for that constant 17% damage buff, and also that Hatchling is going to really help our add clear potential. This weapon is extremely ammo efficient, and we can basically use it as our primary, meaning that we don't need a primary weapon with this build at all. We can just run double specials. So what special are we going to use? Well, an honorable mention would be the Pressurized Precision I meant before, because it has Discord, which grants you 7 seconds of infinite ammo when you get a kill with another weapon. And Hatchling works differently on this weapon because it's not a precision weapon, and Hatchling typically triggers on precision final blows. In order to spawn a Threadling, we need double kills, and with 7 seconds of infinite ammo, we can get off like 2 to 4 double kills in that time frame pretty easily. It's a solid weapon to run, and I would not argue with you if you chose to run this. However, Once again, Season 23 saves the day yet again with the brand new Supercluster Slug Shotgun. Now this is a weapon that is easy to proc hatchling with because it's a slug. It chunks for a lot to the crit, and this thing has a plethora of amazing perk options. You got a ton of awesome perks in the right column, but obviously this build is taking advantage of hatchling, and in the left column we got things like lead from gold or 4th times the charm that help the ammo efficiency, but however in this case we are using reconstruction to get that 12-round magazine with auto-loading capabilities for the sake of the smoothness and fluidity of our gameplay. With our double reserve mods, this thing can hold up to 20 ammo, and despite running double specials, with the reserves and the scav, I was getting like 8 ammo per brick with this thing. It was incredibly efficient as well. So yeah, between the Supercluster and the Marcato, Season 23 has blessed us with the best hatchling weapons we could ask for. The ultimate Threadling build now has what it wants, and this is what I waited for. However, I'll say there is another special weapon you might want to consider running sometimes in the top slot, and that is the Witherhoard. And that brings us to our artifact mods for this season. There is Unraveling Orbs. This is picking up an Orb of Power, grants us Unraveling Rounds. So between that and Threat of Propagation, we pretty much have Unraveling Rounds all the time. It says that our powered melee final blows grant us Unraveling Rounds, and yes, that also counts our grapple melee. So the grapple melee hitting an opponent also triggers Unraveling, and so does our Arcane Needle melee ability. So it's extremely easy for us to proc Unraveling, and that's very important because that's going to segue us into our next artifact mod, Horde Shuttle. This is key. This is another reason that the Threadling build is complete, at least for the next 6 months. It says that damaging unravel targets with a weapon will periodically spawn a Threadling, and I'll show you an example of this against Carl. We proc that unravel as we damage him with our machine gun, and you can see Threadlings occasionally popping out of him, giving us free chunks of extra DPS. It's actually pretty dang good. Now with that being said, the Witherhoard is a weapon worth considering because it applies a DOT effect that is coming from a weapon source like Horde Shuttle wants us to. So as you can see here against Carl, we just unravel him and stick a Witherhoard shot, and we don't have to do anything, and Threadlings just magically pop out of him. It's such a great damage dealer, and you can feel free to blast away with your machine gun while this is happening, and it actually does pretty respectable DPS. And not to mention, we're also spamming out grapple punches while this is happening, which brings us to Thread of Generation. It says that dealing damage generates grenade energy, and unraveling effects are amazing for that because it generates those little seekers that fly around and hit targets. It's like another pseudo DOT effect, creating more damage numbers and helping to recharge our grenade. So as we lay on the trigger and apply various DOTs to a bigger target, we can get our grapple back in seconds simply by damaging them. And you're kind of seeing that in the clip here against Charles. I probably could have spammed more, but you get the idea. Our grapple comes back effortlessly because Thread of Generation is a very balanced fragment when you pair it along with Unravel and the free Threadlings from Horde Shuttle. And another awesome thing about Horde Shuttle is that when you pair it along with Hatchling and Thread of Rebirth, that says that Strand Weapon final blows have a chance to generate a Threadling, you are theoretically capable of spawning 3 Threadlings in 1 Hatchling final blow. And I've seen it happen many times as I played with this build. And that's insane for ad clear. There's so much damage that you're spreading around for absolutely no cost whatsoever. Remember, Bungie buffed Threadlings last season. They hit pretty hard. Just to give you an idea of how much free damage you're spreading around, I got this clip here against Carl of killing him without even shooting him. I'm just ad clearing around him and spreading Unravel and Threadlings via effects like Mindspun Grapple, Hatchling, Horde Shuttle, and of course our other aspect of Weaver's Call that deploys our purged Threadlings. And just like that, we quite literally effortlessly kill Carl without even shooting him. And just to give you an idea of how much inadvertent damage we got on him, here's a clip of us shooting Carl with 3 rockets, and it doesn't even pick up the kill. So yeah, this build can put out an insane amount of damage while also being an absolute ad clear monster. So now let's get to wrapping up the rest of the build. So first things first, loadout choices. Like I said, the Witherhoard is worth heavily considering for types of content where you need more sustained DPS. And if you do run it, I'd probably pair it along something like a Cartesian Coordinate or whatever other DPS rapid fire fusion you got. But if you do run the Supercluster, I would pair it along with a Merciless for heavy DPS. The thing about any build in this game is that you can't just have it be an ad clear build. You need to have something on you that can burst down bigger targets. So either you swap to that during a boss, or you just have it be on your loadout. So that's the reason for the Merciless. So my advice to any newer players out there who like machine guns is to never pair them with the primary weapon. When you run a machine gun, especially with reserves like we're doing, That is your primary. The only reason you would use a primary with the machine gun is to stun a champion, and that's it. Now onto the mod setup, I opted for the double surges plus time dilation, but I can see a world in which you spec into stacks on stacks with grenade kickstart, so it's really up to you. Now this video is long enough, so I'm not going to explain my glove mods because I already went in depth about this setup on my Strand Titan Armamentarium video and my Assassin's Cal Strand Hunter video, but basically to sum it up, focusing strike, impact, induction, and heavy-handed work with your grapple melee despite it using your grenade charge because it counts as a charged melee as well. And this is one of the reasons why I'm in love with Strand right now. This setup is so dang good. So moving on, we got Bomber on our class item for some nade energy when we place our Rift, which also procs Reaper, so we make an orb on our next weapon kill after placing a Rift. And we have Harmonic Siphon to get orbs on Strand Weapon double kills. There's Hands On for more super energy on melee final blows, and yes, that does work with your grapple. And then I just got a random resist mod on my chest, and you can swap that out accordingly depending on the threat modifier. For my stats here, I'd recommend to invest double hundreds into resilience and discipline and split the rest into recovery and strength. I have mine in the 70s, while maintaining a minimum of tier 3 intellect, which you should always do. And that about wraps up the build. I gotta say, Error was right. This is one of the funnest Warlock builds I've ever played, and if you are a Warlock main, or perhaps if you got any buddies who are Warlock mains, I'd appreciate if you share this video with them, because I can say in full confidence that this is a Warlock build worth going out of your way to try out. Even if you don't have the God Roll Marcato, you can try it out with just Rufus's Fury or whatever good strand weapons you got. So as always, I'll leave a dim loadout link to this build down below in the description and also the pinned comment if you would like to give it a try. And that's going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment because interacting with the video like that really helps out the algorithm. So doing one of those things goes a long way. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing. Would love to have you here. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. See you later.